So I'm Bethany Patterson,
I'm Lisa.
and we're going to talk to you guys about parent trainings. And sorry if we lose you guys again. I think the Wi-Fi might be a little wonky, or
Moving
we're
phones
just
from the area.
yeah, or we're just really bad with technology. One of those.
Right?
So we're going to start over.
Yes.
So the first thing we want to talk about was
Why parent training is so difficult for brand new BCBAs in the field based off of our past history of not really learning from our supervisors how to do it and kind of watching and learning as we go. So we were trying to see like what other people's input and like stories were.
Yeah. A lot of parent trainings I've seen where they just went over the graphs of that month and how, the client improved, which is great. And I think that's a great thing to be doing with the parents to see that, but also what else can we do with parent trainings? So at first, we want to share, somebody posted in the Slack group about the Welcome to Holland poem, and I really want to share that with everyone. So it's called Welcome to Holland, and it's by Emily Kingsley. She wrote this poem in 1987, and she said, "I'm often asked to describe the experience of raising a child with disability, to try to help people who have not shared that unique experience to understand it, to imagine how it would feel. It's like this. When you're going to have a baby, it's like planning a fabulous vacation trip to Italy. You buy a bunch of guided books, you make your wonderful plans, the Colosseum, the Michelangelo, David, the gondolas in Venice. You may learn some handy phrases in Italian. It's all very exciting. After months of eager anticipation, the day finally arrives. You pack your bags and off you go. Several hours later, the plane lands. The stewardess come in and say, 'Welcome to Holland.' 'Holland?' you say. 'What do you mean Holland? I signed up for Italy. I'm supposed to be in Italy. All my life, I've dreamed of going to Italy.' But there's been a change in the flight plan. They've landed in Holland, and there you must stay. The important thing is that they haven't taken you to a horrible, disgusting, filthy place full of famine and disease. It's just a different place. So you must go out and buy a new guidebooks, and you must learn a whole new language, and you will meet a whole new group of people you would never have met. It's just a different place. It's slower paced than Italy, less flashy than Italy. But after you've been there for a while and you catch your breath, you look around and you begin to notice that Holland has windmills, and Holland has tulips. Holland even has Rembrandts. But everyone you know is busy coming and going from Italy, and they're all bragging about how wonderful the time was they had there. And for the rest of your life, you'll say, 'Yes, that's where I was supposed to go. That's what I have planned.' And the pain of that will never, ever, ever, ever go away, because the loss of that dream is a very, very significant loss. But if you spend your life mourning the fact that you didn't get to go to Italy, you may never be free to enjoy the very special and very lovely things about Holland."
That's a good one. I like it.
I love that story. So that poem that we just read really reminds us of how we have to be empathetic. And also we're also talking about the steps of grievance, and how we have to remember that they are grieving during this time, especially when we get a client that they just got diagnosed.
Yeah, when they're brand new to like something's going on and then now they're being told by a doctor like, hey, your child has autism, they're going through that first step of denial and then also guilt, like, what did I do? What happened? How did this happen? Not my kid. And then they want to fix it. How do we fix it? So that leads us to like the wonderful speed bumps we all encounter with parent training. So
we're going to talk about some of those speed bumps, and some of these were brought up in the Slack group as well, and also some
talked about different speed bumps in the Slack group. So one of the speed bumps is, how do we get parents on board for parent training? So different things Bethany and I talked about was educating them. I don't know if we were talking about like educating them on why it's important for them to be part of the system. I know we use Ruby, and that is very good at giving a lot of parents the one-on-one of like, this is what reinforcement does. This is what punishment is. This is what planned ignoring is. So we're giving them the tools that they need. The next one to get parents on board is if you have the visual graphs to show them like, hey, your client or your kiddo is doing like this many tasks, knows this many things, knows how to mand like 50 words, those kinds of things.
I feel like sometimes parents get so caught up in, we have to fix this, we got to focus on this, that they're not sometimes seeing the bigger picture, that they are doing so many other different things. So having those visuals and being like, yeah, like look at the progress they made here, look at the progress they made there, is also important to show them as well.
Yeah, we have them sit in on session. I'm very fortunate to where most of my clients that I see, I actually do direct with during the week as well. So I get that rapport with the family and I get like, hey, your child's doing this. Well, you just kind of walked by them while they were doing it and ignored it, but we needed you to stop and correct it. So they're able to like see, and they see what we're doing and they're like, oh, this does work. Communication.
Yes.
Communicate.
Okay, so we were talking about how to get parents on board and how we need to communicate, how important it is to have that open communication with them, and have them feel like they can ask those questions about ABA. They can tell us about the behaviors that they're seeing and what they want to be changed. And also to like make parents a priority as well as the client that you're working with, so that they feel like you're also there to help them as well, because we do want to make sure that they're understanding why we're there, what we're doing, and that we can answer those difficult questions that they may have about their child's behavior.
Yeah, I agree with that. Sometimes too, if you let parents like, hey, what do you want to work on? They feel like, oh, you're really listening to me. So now they're more on board because they want you to work with them and work as a team. Our next one is older client parents. So when you have like those teens transitioning into adults, how do you get those parents to participate in parent training? So some of our thoughts were, what if you have the parents sit down and like list goals? I actually just talked about this with a tech yesterday, like maybe making a vision board of like where do you see yourself, like the client, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And then for the parent as well to say like, where do you want your child? Like, are they going to be living at home? Are they going to be living in a transition home? Are they going to be living independently? And then how can we help you get to those goals before your child hits this age? So again, to communicate with them, that's the biggest thing. And how do you achieve those goals? So like, if you want your child to get a job at McDonald's, well, we got to make sure that they can do X, Y, Z. Are they able to do like simple chores around the house? Things like that.
I love the vision board idea.
Yeah.
That is great. And sometimes too, with my older clients, I have them sit in on some of the parent trainings as well, because then they come up with their ideas too. Like, oh, well, yeah, I can work on that. I think that's great, but I also want to learn how to do this. So sometimes having them, they don't have to be in every single, parent training, but having them in there so their parents can hear too, like what they really want to work on as well. That has worked for me a few times.
Yeah, letting the kids, definitely the older ones, get involved a little bit more with like the programming, and then you get the parent buy-in a little bit more, and like you can use wiggle room between the client and the parents, and you get the parents very active in it. So our next topic is, what if parents don't abide by ethical code? They like to give you gifts. They invite you to their kiddo's birthday party. That's always the fun one.
Right. Well, I love what we do here at Navigation is before we even start services, we have like a packet that we go over with the parents. And one of the things is we talk about, we don't we have an ethical code. This is where you can find the ethical code, and we can't get gifts. And having that discussion with them from the very beginning has really helped me, especially with like going there, supervising, or if I'm working direct, but especially with the parent trainings too, because you're more one-on-one with the parent and they want sometimes to give you things or to feed you. So having that upfront conversation with them before even starting services has been beneficial.
Yeah, it's been very beneficial for a lot of my clients, especially when the board started implementing it. Like, it was hard for some of the older clients to be like, well, wait, we used to be able to do this, and now you can't. I also too, like around the holidays, will send out like a reminder email, like, hey,
Yes.
and I'll put the board's actual code in the email, like, per board code, this means X, Y, and Z. So we can't,
that's great.
we can't have anything, we don't want to offend you, but we have to do it because our job tells us. And most parents get it, I feel. That's always a good one.
Right.
I like you were saying, like, do like a refresher on it too, like re-going over the protocol.
Yeah.
And the
I
ethical
do.
codes.
Yeah, I do probably every 6 months. I'll sit down with the parents, and before we do our parent training, I'll go over the protocols again. Because
Nice.
things do change. So I like to remind them of any changes that have happened, or then we'll go over like the ethical code again. Like, this is where you can find it, and you still can't accept gifts or anything like that.
Yeah, so that's a good one. I haven't personally seen, I've had very minimal issues with it, but then you do have that one family who, even if you give it to them like a couple times, like, hey, this is our policy, they'll still try to break it, and you just have to politely decline.
Especially when it's their culture.
Yeah.
So I'm Italian, and my mom would always make food, and if you denied it, it was, well, what's wrong? You don't want my cooking? So trying not to offend the parents, but explaining why we can't accept gifts, accept food, stuff like that. Which goes into our next speed bump, is the cultural differences.
Yes. And that is a good one, like how you were saying Italian. My husband's family is Nigerian, and they're the same. Like, if you deny food, like, what are you talking about? Like, you have to eat this. So I know out here in Virginia Beach, we see a lot of cultural differences. I used to live in California, and it was the same thing. There's a lot of cultural differences. There's some places you have language barriers,
right,
between clients and their parents. The client speaks English, but the parents don't. And it's like, how do you communicate to that parent, like, what you're trying to get?
Right.
I had a client where luckily the girl had full comprehension and was able to speak, where I had to have her talk to her parents for me. And she was the one receiving
about cultural differences and language barriers. And I know that somebody in the Slack group talked about if there was any parent training resources in other languages. So if anybody has that,
that'd be
that'd be great to share. I do know the board has, I believe, our ethical codes in different languages.
Yes.
So you can get that from the board website. But if we could get some like ABA, like
resources,
resources, or
even breaking down like ABA 101 to like some of these parents, like simple reinforcement procedures, extinction procedures, that like things we're doing, that would be great to give some of the families where there is that language barrier.
Yeah, no, for sure. So just share it either on the Slack group, or you can share it to this video or to the navigation page. That'd be great.
Awesome. Another thing too that we were talking about with cultural differences is asking house rules before starting session. I generally do that with my intake, and that's part of our NBC's parent packet when we start. It goes over, like, is there anywhere in the house we're not allowed? And I always ask parents that, like, what's off limits, what's on limits? Do you want me to take off my shoes when I get here? Just so that way I'm fully aware of what to expect when I'm in that home.
Right.
So we're talking about house rules with cultural differences, getting to know what the house rules are, providing them with our guidelines and protocols, Then we also have like differences with interventions. So planned ignoring is the consequence, but the parents decide they're going to yell every time. So for some cultures, that's their thing, and we're trying to explain why it's not a thing. So I think just simply showing them the data of like, hey, when we do this protocol our way,
Right.
it's showing you like we're giving the consequence of planned ignoring, we're seeing a decrease, but when you're running it and your consequence is the yelling, we're seeing an increase. So,
right. And that's too, like, we're having them sit in on a session, or even like if they're just watching, and then they can see like how we do it and how we have the instructional control of that, and it can help better for them to understand why we do the plan ignoring and not give attention to the problem behavior.
Yeah. All right, our next topic is, what do you do when parents ask you or they want non-evidence-based treatments in the ABA plan? So I have parents that will ask about different things. Oh, I saw this on the news, or I saw this on a TV show. Is this a real thing? Like, can we try it? And I kind of just refer them back to the Association of Science for Autism Treatment. But we also had written down kind of going over the expectations at the beginning of services that we provide ABA and only ABA services. And what's being given is evidence-based, every single thing that they will receive. Right. And then we also talked about too, like if parents decide to go ahead and do a treatment without like your consent, or they're like, oh, we're also doing this on the side, like maybe we keep an eye on it on our graphs just to monitor, to be like, hey, like you started chelation therapy and we're seeing an increase in behaviors.
Yeah, and like, showing them, like giving them those visual graphs of, you know, the behaviors are going up. And then also too, like before I even start with a client, I'll ask them, what services do you get? Do you get OT, do you get PT, do you get speech? But also, do you do anything else? Are they taking any medications? Are they on any type of different vitamins that they might be taking, or anything, so that we understand exactly the full picture of what's going on?
Yeah, exactly. I do the same thing. I'll be like, what medications, whether they're over the counter or they're not, because a lot of our kids too are on melatonin.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, why? So that kind of stuff, like just to make sure that we understand what this child is going through as well and what they're getting every day.
Right. And then parents aren't taking the data that we're asking from them, or they're not following the treatment plan that we've given them. And we were just talking about this because I just had a baby, and I was saying like, oh wow, complete game changer on what I'm going to be expecting from parents. You know, so it's really important, like, have you actually sat with them and talked to them and asked them what they wanted? This is really important because it might just be something that there is a problem, but they're not focused on that problem right now. They might be wanting to be focused on something else right now. So having that open communication with them is huge. Is the intervention feasible for their lifestyle? You know, asking them to take frequency data on something that has a high frequency rate and they have, you know, 2 other kids, might not be feasible for them. Right. And then, do they feel like they can talk to you? This is a really, really big one. There's been times, especially right before I went on maternity leave, that they were going to the RBT, but they weren't coming to me. So do they feel like they can talk to you about these issues, and making sure that they do feel comfortable, that they do feel like they have open communication with you, and making sure that you made time. And again, that goes back to, you know, they're also our client, and making them a priority at times too, so that they can have these open communications with you as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I definitely think you have to look at the family circumstances, where out here, a lot of the families are Navy, and moms are stay-at-home moms. Dads are working long days in the Navy, or they're deployed, or they're underway. and mom has the child with the autism diagnosis, and then she has like 2 little ones under him. And it's
Right.
like, well, can I ask you to take frequency data on every time he spins? Probably not, because
Mm-hmm.
if you're trying to feed baby number 2, put baby number 3 down for a nap, it's not going to work.
Right. And also, too, even if we're asking something very simple, we don't know the full picture of what's going on in their lives. So we have to be empathetic to what's going on. So if that isn't working, if taking, a frequency data with something that's very low occurrences isn't happening, then we have to figure something else out for them. And having that communication with, okay, this isn't working. What can we do?
Right.
What will work for you?
And that, I had a kiddo where we were working on him say open anytime he wanted something from the fridge, and we had a calendar on the fridge with a pin attached to it to say, like, anytime he says open, tally mark it. Made it as simple as possible for mom, so that if she was multitasking, like cooking dinner and trying to get him like a cup of milk out of the fridge, takes 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And she was able to comply and do it, which was amazing.
Awesome.
I think this is our, oh no, not quite. So they never agree on the time. They always reschedule parent training. So what do you do when the parent is dodging you like a bullet? We've all had this happen before, once or twice. NBC Navigation has a policy that parents have to participate. And so if it's something simple like just a tally mark, he said open today, yes or no, they have to participate, and we give them like a verbal warning if they're not. Then we have 3 written chances.
Yeah.
And of course it's case by case and client by client, of course, that tells them like, hey, if you're not participating, we're not going to do this, because in order for this to be effective, we need parents on board.
Mm-hmm. And that's also a thing we do on the intake, is right at the beginning, before we even start sessions, we tell them that there has to be parent participation. And I also remind them too, some of the insurance companies now are requiring it. So giving them that information too, that in order to have services, we have to have our a parent goal, and then also showing them that, this intervention worked. Look, he's making progress. Getting that parent buy-in. Usually they'll be on board with the parent trainings as well.
And then documenting everything on the scheduling. I like that one too. Like, I give my kiddos monthly calendars, may not change, but every month, and they have that visual on there. I also am a Google Calendar person. So I will create an event and invite the family to it. So invite, like, the parent gets a calendar invite to the parent training that we've scheduled right as they agree to it. So, oh, Susie, you said we can do like Tuesday at 8 a.m. Check your phone. Like, you just got a reminder.
Perfect.
That way it was there. Even if the calendar falls off the fridge and gets lost. Yeah.
That is a great, I really like.
So we were talking about documenting everything on schedules, like how I give my clients monthly calendars. But I also give my parents a Google invite. So it goes onto a Google Calendar. That way, if the calendar gets lost, they have it. So last topic, and hopefully we don't get cut off before we're done. Resources. We use Ruby, which is from Ohio State. One of our BCBAs at Navigation, Claire, used it with a family, and then I loved it. I loved watching how this family evolved. So I was like, how do I get this and do this with all my families, especially the ones who've never had ABA or have had ADA, but they didn't get the information they needed. So,
and it really breaks it down and simplifies it. It gives the parents homework. And that too we can use for data, like, okay, yep, they participated and they understand what we were asking from them.
Right. And it also has a DVD with it. So it gives the scenario, like, your parents, you can watch a situation happening and take data on it at that point. So you have that inner observer agreement, but then also to walk through of well, what did you see, Dad and Mom? What did I see? How do you think we could correct this? Or what do you think the plan of action? Or even, did you like how they did it? And how would you want to change it if it doesn't meet your lifestyle? It kind of helps them out with giving them a bigger picture of what we're doing.
Right. So we want to hear from you guys too. What do you guys use? Do you have a different kind of curriculum that you use? Did you create your own? Are you willing to share? Just let's all collaborate and see what we can come up with different resources to help these parents.
Especially since this is a good topic and parents are just as important.
Right.
Share away.
So I think that's it. 5 videos. We're sorry again, the internet wasn't working with us very well. But I hope that you see all 5 and that has helped.
Yeah, if you have questions, comments, you can do it here. You can do it on Slack group. Bethany and I will answer any questions. I'm pretty sure other people on the boards too.
Yes. All right. Hope you guys have a good day.
All right, bye guys.
Bye.